tawheed, when we're talking about relationship, there are certain ayat that emphasize that more than other ayat. So I want you to look at these ayat right there. So just this page, right? In the previous page, it was talking about كذلك يوحي إليك والذين من قبلك, about the wahi, and then له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض talks about the general part about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in where he's the owner of the heavens and the earth, and that وهو العلي العظيم, he's beyond all that, he is the most high and most magnificent. And then here's one thing, is that when you look at that, there's that pattern that it's really similar in many ways to Surat or Ayat al-Kursi. If you actually take Ayat al-Kursi and you make Ayat al-Kursi like a blueprint, and from that blueprint you could see the demonstration in how it goes in details to describe a lot of the different things. Let's look at Ayat al-Kursi. Allahu la ilaha illa huwa al-hayy al-qayyum. So take that blueprint, all right? Allahu la ilaha illa huwa al-hayy al-qayyum. And where it's talking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, announcing right there, there's no God worthy of worship but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is al-hayy al-qayyum. He basically is the forever living, never dies, al-qayyum. In other words, there was nothing that made Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be. There was nothing that preceded Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is al-awwal wal-akhir. He's basically before everything. And he's going to be the one that is the originator for this whole universe. And then Allahu la ilaha illa huwa al-hayy al-qayyum la ta'khudhuhu sinatun wa la nawm. And in order to explain لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم, this is explained الحي القيوم, that no weakness, not asleep, and not even the part of sleep, which is the sinna, the beginning, the early stages of sleep, overcomes the Lord Almighty. Why? Because he's beyond the creation. What happens to the creation in terms of different weaknesses are basically not things that you can apply onto Allah Almighty. And then, so here it is. Now it's telling you, affirming one side, and then disregarding other weaknesses, and saying that no, that you can't apply that to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. له ما في لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض من ذا الذي يشفع عنده إلا بإذنه. Now there's a second segment of it, له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض, and where he is basically not in the beginning, that it's talking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as Allah Almighty, as a deity. And then in the second part, it's talking about Allah in the relationship with the creation. All right. And then in the third part, so مَنْ ذَا الَّذِي يَشْفَعُ عِنْدَهُ إِلَّا بِإِذْنِهِ. So then, just like in the beginning, basically said لَهُ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ, that the relationship between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the creation is that he owns everything. And then, in other words, it's disregarding any power that any deity might have over the world. Not only the power over the world, but مَنْ ذَا الَّذِي يَشْفَعُ عِنْدَهُ, not even in any moderation. There's no intercession or any power between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the other things that were created there. In other words, انتفاء تام. من ذا الذي يشفع عنده إلا بإذنه يعلم ما بين أيديهم. So there are a number of different things here when it comes to the relationship between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the creation. One is that he owns it. له ملك السماوات والأرض. Two is that therefore he owns the way it functions. That's why I said من ذا الذي يشفع عنده. He owns the way it functions and how everything functions. So therefore, من ذا الذي يشفع عنده إلا بإذنه يعلم ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم. So therefore, he is the one that has the knowledge to determine how things function, and therefore he has the knowledge to determine how things should function in terms of ubudiyya, in terms of submission to the Lord Almighty. But submission to the Lord Almighty is not only in ritual, but it's also in the way we practice our day-to-day life. In other words, whether it's on a social scale, social level, economic level, all the different levels out there. من ذا يعلم ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم ولا يحيطون بشيء. Again, in the beginning, intifa, it was affirming something and then denying something. With every single part of that ayah, affirm something and deny something or disregard something. What did it affirm? It affirmed it. It affirmed يعلم ما بين أيديهم. He knows what is in their future, what's going to happen in the future, and what's going to happen or what happened in the past. And then denying the second part, ولا يحيطون بشيء من علمه إلا بما شاء. They have no power to embrace or even have any knowledge of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has. And that's the same thing if you actually look at even if you look at, for example, with Surah Ash-Shura right there, it's really similar. Fatir as-samawati wal ard. It's basically, here it is talking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even though in the beginning of the surah it was saying lahu mulku as-samawati wal ard, but then here Fatir as-samawati wal ard. He's basically the originator of the heavens and the earth. And then جعل لكم من أنفسكم أزواجا, made from your own selves pairs, and from the different animals, the different creations, pairs. يذرأكم فيه. He created you in order to dwell in on this earth, basically. But at the same time, basically telling you, hey, you see the duality law of biology that you see in yourselves, in the human nature, in the animal kingdom. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you, hey, don't apply it on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. ليس كمثله شيء. Don't apply that law with you find in nature on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he's telling you, ليس كمثله شيء. There's nothing like to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So don't apply the law of duality that you find in nature on Allah, because he's beyond nature. And at the same time, so here it is, disregarding an opinion, an idea or a certain rule, and affirming in it something else. So affirming, وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْبَصِيرُ. But at the same time, not because we said disregard the law of duality, it doesn't mean that you disregard any feelings or any sense of knowledge in terms of the world. So the ayah confirms and affirms that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all hearing and all seeing. So if he's all seeing, all hearing, just to explain to us that not because we said laysa kamithlihi shay that you would take out certain descriptions of the Lord Almighty. And then, yes, he talked about the origination. So then he says, lahu maqalidu samawati wal ard. Lahu maqalidu samawati wal ard, that he basically controls their function. So if he not only controls the origin, but controls the function, again, compare it with Ayat al-Kursi that we just started out with. له مقاليد السماوات والأرض. He controls the function of the heavens and the earth, not only the function of how they work, but even how they continue working. In other words, what makes them continue and get the necessary things that they need, depending on whatever piece of creation you're talking about, in order for it to continue within its cycle. And that's why he said, يَبْسُطُ الرِّزْقَ لِمَنْ يَشَاءُ. He would give rizq. The lifespan of an elephant is not like the lifespan of a turtle or lifespan of a human being. It's not the same for all the people. And same thing, our lifespan is not the same of a lifespan of a bird, and the list goes on. And that's part of rizq. Same thing when we're talking about amount of food, same thing when all of that is rizq. In other words, to keep life going, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives a certain amount and takes away a certain amount. Compare it to Ayat al-Kursi, and we're always, since he is the originator of things, he controls their function, he controls the continuance of their function, and he then therefore has the knowledge over everything in this universe. Well, if he knows everything in the universe, then therefore he also should, and by that foundation, he also has the knowledge to even make the laws for mankind to function in complete justice. If he made creation which functions in a certain intricate detail, then therefore he also has the power to put in the function of what makes justice, not only in how they function, but also in what makes things function, even for those that have free will, which are human beings. So that's why he said, that's why he says that he had legislated from the deen, from the religion, from, in other words, the vision, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ma wassa bihi Nuha, what he had willed for Nuh, and from that what was sent and revealed onto the previous prophets, Ibrahim, Musa, Isa. What was the whole idea? An aqimuddin, that you have to live a certain principle that the Lord Almighty had actually accepted for it to be the principle that mankind would apply in life. And in the end, is that yes, you're not going to find general acceptance. It doesn't mean you're going to find people accepting what you are delivering, just like the mushrikeen didn't like what was revealed onto the previous prophets. And that's why he said, they're going to find it impossible, hard. They're going to find it a burden to accept what you're calling them to. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, He basically anoints, he chooses whom he wills from the prophets and the messengers, and he would guide whoever would go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In other words, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about the munafiqeen that if they would have لو أرادوا الخروج لأعدوا له عدة ولكن كره الله بعاثهم. If they really would have wanted to go, if they would really have wanted guidance, if they would really have wanted to participate in jihad, لأعدوا له عدة ولكن كره الله بعاثهم. They would have prepared the arms for it. They had put in a determination to put in the plans to go. And that was talking about the munafiqeen in Surah At-Tawbah, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala detested their presence. That is the munafiqeen. What happened? What was the result? So he made them feel lazy because he didn't want them to be present with the mu'mineen. So here, يهدي إليه ما ينيب. So it's really similar in where you have to put in the guidance, you put in the effort to seek guidance, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you guidance. You don't expect that the malaika are going to come to you and tell you it's time for you to wear your hijab. It's time for you to start your salah. You put in salah and khushu' will come to you. You put in wudu and you'll basically get closer and closer to salah. You put in the effort to start and take the steps to start with your Islam, and that will actually start changing. The end, all the differences that you find within the different religions, it's basically the differences between them. That doesn't change what haqq is. So how do we relate to all this? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you the way you relate to it, فَلِذَلِكَ فَدَى. Just call for that. This is your announcement. This is your motto. فَلِذَلِكَ فَدَى. Do the da'wah for that. And on your end, don't get busy doing the da'wah and forget about yourself. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you, وَاسْتَقِمْ كَمَا أُمِرْتَ. And be a person doing the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and applying the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your life as you were ordered. Don't get too busy with da'wah, and don't get too busy trying to debate on the different matters and forget about yourself. Do that piece of da'wah and put in the principle in your life in order for you to actually not fall in between the cracks, trying to fall within that argument. وَاسْتَقِمْ كَمَا أُمِرْتَ. And apply the principles of the Lord Almighty and live a righteous life as you were ordered. وَلَا تَتَّبِعْ أَهْوَاءَهُمْ. And don't follow their desires. Why? Because there's going to be a predominant life. The predominant life around you that surrounds you is mainly going to be the path that most of those that have left Islam are going to be the ones that are going to be predominant. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تَتَّبِعْ أَهْوَاءَهُم. Don't follow them. And the word تَتَّبِعْ actually means to follow, but the word تَتَّبِعْ actually means to put in a gradual following, a gradual step to imitate, a gradual step after step to replicate those steps without you realizing. And وَقُلْ آمَنْتُ بِمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ مِنْ كِتَابٍ. Here's your motto. And say, I believe in what the Lord Almighty had revealed within the book, that is Quran. وَأُمِرْتُ لِأَعْدِلَ بَيْنَكُمْ. And I was ordered to apply justice between you. In other words, to recognize when we're talking about ubudiyya, there's the ubudiyya in where you recognize who your Lord is and that your Lord Almighty is the one that makes everything function. And therefore, there's the ubudiyya in ibadah. There's the ubudiyya in tashriya, the ubudiyya in legislature that you apply in life. When you define justice, you define right and wrong, you define morality, you basically define it based on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then Allahu Rabbuna wa Rabbukum, our Lord and your Lord is one. Lana a'maluna wa lakum a'malukum. You're going to be held accountable for your deeds. We're going to be held accountable for our deeds. In other words, don't get carried away trying to fix fixing their problem alone. But in the end, even when they try to push you away, you have to remember that you've got your deeds. Work on that. And at the same time, do your da'wah. Still be strong, be steadfast. Don't weaken. لا حجة بيننا وبينكم. In the end, stay strong and say, لا حجة بيننا وبينكم. We've given the da'wah, and in the end, you don't want to listen, you don't want to accept the da'wah. It doesn't weaken the truth, but it weakens the person because they couldn't support their argument. Allahu yajma'u baynana. In the end, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring us in the akhirah. Wa ilayhi al-masir. Recognize that piece of it. So I wanted to do that piece of explaining those ayat, because it's really important to recognize the patterns of tafseer, the patterns of tawheed,